Hey everybody,
Oh, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. I
Happy
can't there,
New Year.
there's a
Hey,
bunch of you here. I can't see everyone, so I probably won't be addressing everybody individually, but man, I appreciate all you guys showing up here and supporting me and being part of this journey. Like I am really happy that you're all here.
You're the man, Dustin.
good to be here.
Oh, I appreciate it, guys. So, I'm just gonna get started. I'm gonna talk for a little bit, just for a few minutes, real short, and then we'll get into Q&A and get into like some specifics. But I did want to get into a few things first. So the first thing that I want to talk about is like how I see learning the guitar. Like a lot of people want this to be a step by step method, and like I don't think a step by step method is the way that learning music works. I visualize it like a spiral, and I just want to show you this diagram real quick. It's just so you can kind of be on the same page as to what I'm thinking and about really how I organized the course. So, like this is just how I think that learning an instrument works. Is it's like a spiral. You could start anywhere, but there are these three main pillars that underlie every style of music, every song you hear, and you hear me talk about this. This is the number system, the landmark pentatonic system, and the cage system. And then I've got a fourth thing down here, which is just literally everything else that you want to learn, like songs, blues, modes, anything that catches your fancy. You know, you should be spending some of your time with the guitar working on whatever it is that floats your boat. But it's not like you learn the number system and then you learn the pentatonic scales and then you learn the caged system. They're all intertwined. So you learn the pentatonic system, and then as you start learning the caged shapes, you'll start seeing some of those shapes within the pentatonic scale. And then you work on the number system, and you'll kind of see how some of those relationships that you found between the cage shapes and the pentatonic scale are true for every key. And as you go around this spiral, which is why I think everybody should be working on all three of these skills. It's not like one and then the next and then the next. You start working on these skills, and it's like every time you go around the spiral, you'll notice more connections, and eventually, and it's kind of never ending. Like I'm still in this spiral. I'm just maybe closer to the center, but I keep going around this, and you'll keep going around this, noticing connections. And as you learn songs, you'll notice things within songs that you didn't notice before. And so I just want to set that up, because like as you go through the course, there's no specific place you need to start. There's nothing that you specifically need to work on more than others. That's going to be dependent on your goals and where you're at. But it's just having a framework of these things, these three things, in addition to anything else that you want to work on. But these three skills are going to make your guitar playing better. So if you can have a little focused practice time on those three skills, you undoubtedly will get better, no matter what your goal is. If you want to be a blues player, if you want to be a jazz player, if you want to just sing songs with your friends, you keep working on those three skills, and learning songs will be easier, writing songs will be easier, kind of all of that. So that's kind of how I think about learning the guitar. And the problem that I see with a lot of people is just spreading themselves too thin. This is the common theme I see over and over. I've got a bunch more people. Hold on. Wanting to get into the waiting room, so let me figure out how to admit everybody here. Here we go. All right. So like people get they have too many goals, they have too much information. I mean, YouTube is fantastic, but there's too much information out there, and I think there's no like container for people's practice. So, you start practicing and you wonder, what do I need to practice? What am I working on? How long do I work on this for? I think setting up some sort of a container for your practice is really beneficial. So I think like having a simple, and I really emphasize this, a simple structured practice plan is a great way to see your progress faster. Sorry guys, this is my first big Zoom meeting like this, and I'm trying to admit everyone. There we go. So having a simple structure, simple practice structure, 20, 30 minutes, that's a good amount of time, working on the same time of day, one focus at a time, like figure out what are the things that I want to practice today, or what are the things I want to practice this week, and just having a short, small list of things that you're working on. And then there's also, outside of practice, like your time spent with the guitar shouldn't be all practice. Part of the time spent with the guitar should just be playing, exploring, playing songs, making up your own stuff, following cool things on YouTube, whatever you want, but having some sort of structure. Like for me, I wake up in the mornings earlier than anybody else in the house, and I play guitar for about 30 minutes with my cup of coffee. I have a few things that I'm working on. I'll work on those until I feel like, okay, I'm ready to move on to something else. But it's like, I have maybe 3 or 4 things that I'm working on at a time, and it's for a finite 30 minutes a day. And then I might play more than that, but that's my container. That's my practice container right there. I'm going to wake up, I'm going to practice for 30 minutes in the morning, and I'm going to work on these 3 things. Keep it really, really simple. And the last thing is you want to touch on all 3 skills in your practice time. And that can be, you don't have to touch on all 3 skills every day. Like you might spend a week on just working on Caged, or a month just working on Caged. Or you might, you want to eventually work up to the point where you're working on multiple skills in one practice session. But you just want to keep touching these skills, because some of them, like the number system, you may not think that it's as important as it is, but the longer you're at it, the more songs you learn, and the more you get into that, you'll see that these 3 skills are like the backbone of everything. I could, put me in any situation, and those are the 3 skills that I'm going to rely on more than anything else, more than modes, more than any fancy stuff. It's like, what key is it in? Where are those chords all over the neck? Where do I play the pentatonic scale? And then I can add on from there. All right, so one last thing before I get to the questions is I want to just give a quick demonstration of like how I think you guys should log in to the course and bookmark the course. So I've had a lot of questions on this, and I just want to show you how I set it up to be as easy as possible. So I'm going to share my screen with you for a second. Let's see here. Okay, so I'm going to do this in a browser that I don't usually use. So this is Chrome, and I'm just going to type in. So the course is located, just this way you don't, I've had people ask about how to set this up easily, because a lot of people were like going back to the original email and clicking on the link and doing all that. But if you type in my website, so DustinHofsess.com/course-1, that's the course page. Okay, and right now I'm not signed in. Okay, so I get this page, it says sign up, or if I go down to the bottom, you have this login button. So I'm going to click login. I'm going to put in my email address. And then my password. Sign in, and I'm going to save the password. And then in every browser it's a little bit different, but what I suggest doing is bookmarking this page. So in Chrome, whoops, I lost it here. Hold on. In Chrome, if you go up to bookmarks, bookmark this tab, and I'll name it course, and that's it. And now it's bookmarked. And anytime, let's see, I don't know how Chrome works here. I guess anytime I want to go to this, I would go to, oh, here's the bookmark. So I just could go here, course, click on it, and I'm in. Oop. Sorry, y'all, I am not used to Chrome. I did that wrong. But you want to set it up as a bookmark. I'll show you how I have it in. I use Safari, and I just have it right up here. It says course. I click it once, and I'm in. And that way, when I sit down to practice, it's literally 3 seconds. I can just click that, and I can go to a practice studio, and I'm already practicing. So I highly recommend, once you get into the course, setting it up as a bookmark. Once you've logged in, you don't really log out. So it literally is one click away. And if anybody has any problems, then feel free to just email me, and I'll help you get any kind of technical issues set up. All right. Okay, and then one last thing about the course. There's a lot to it. Okay, don't feel like you have to watch everything all at once. Like, just go slow. Pick one skill that you want to work on. Watch the main video, which is in the concept hall. So like if you wanted to explore the pentatonic scale first, go to the pentatonic concept hall and watch that video. And that's like the main explanation of that skill. And then move to the practice studio. And that's where the backing tracks and the diagrams, that's like to me, the heart of the course. The concept hall is where I teach the skill, but the practice studio is where you want to spend your practice time, because that's how you're really going to get good at the skill, because knowing it and actually being able to do it are two different things. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and start on some questions. And first, I got a couple of questions that got emailed, so I'm going to do those first, because these are a couple of questions that I get a lot. So one of the things is practice and mindset. So I got several questions on that, and people asked questions like, how many exercises should I realistically be working on? How do I know when it's time to move on from an exercise and when to revisit it later? And why do some practice days feel great and others feel terrible? Am I doing something wrong? Those were kind of samples about practice that I got a lot of questions on. And my biggest piece of advice is just to narrow your focus. Pick a couple of things to work on and do it regularly. Keep your practice simple. And then you can do whatever else you want with your guitar time, but you should have some little focused practice time. You really will see results if you work on the same thing or couple of things for a longer period of time regularly. So if I had 60 minutes, doing 10 minutes a day for, if I did 10 minutes a day, 6 days in a row, that's going to give me a lot more progress than one long 60-minute session. Okay, sorry here. Let's see if anybody else is joining. Okay. All right, sorry about that. Okay, and then I had a couple questions on the pentatonic scale specifically. So I got several people talking about basically, I know the scale shapes, but it doesn't sound like music. So the thing that I recommend is there is a video in the pentatonic section of the course. Let me just show you this, that I think is really important for that. So let me share my screen with you. Okay, so in the pentatonic practice studio, where you have all these backing tracks, if you scroll down to the bottom, there's this essential techniques video. And this video has chapters, and these chapters are on all of these different ways to make the pentatonic scale sound more musical. So it's, there's slides, there's hammer-ons, pull-offs, and you can click on any chapter and it'll go right to that part of the video. And it'll give you examples of that particular technique. So there's pull-offs, hammer-ons, bends and releases. There's tons of them on here. It's like a 30-minute video, but it's all in chapters so that you can, if you wanted to pick a particular one to start adding to your playing, you just click on that and watch it. All right. So there's questions here. Okay. And then the other question that I get a lot is, I talk about these two landmark shapes of the pentatonic, shape 1 and shape 4. And I get a bunch of questions that along these lines. When moving between shapes 1 and shapes 4, does it matter which note I slide to? Is it okay to mix shape 1 ideas with shape 4 ideas freely? Do you need to connect the pentatonic shapes linearly, or can you just jump between them? So the thing with shape 1 and shape 4 is they are both available to you anytime. You can always jump from shape 1 to shape 4, and that's one thing that you should practice is pick a key. So I've got my course set up here on my iPad over here, so I'm going to go to the Pentatonic Practice Studio. Here, I'll just pick, here we go. I'll just do B minor. All right, so here's a B minor backing track. And I've got shape 1 at 7th fret. Because I have B here at the 7th fret on the E string, and then I could find B here at the 2nd fret on the A string. Play shape number 4. But I can freely jump between those, and that is an important thing to practice, is to just take those two shapes, play a phrase in one, jump right to the other. Trying to connect them in any way. I'm just playing a phrase and then jumping up. So it's, you want to get comfortable knowing where those landmark shapes are and just being able to just jump straight to them. You don't have to climb up a certain way and then connect from the highest note that you get to, which is what I see a lot of people doing. So just spend part of your pentatonic practice time establishing where those two shapes are and just like forcing yourself to jump between the two. It'll give you a ton of vocabulary. All right, and then I had a couple questions on caged. So a couple people asked about, should they be focusing on all 5 cage shapes or just a few? And I had several people say that they were kind of comfortable with the E shape and A shape, but not some of the other shapes. What I recommend is adding the D shape in. So focusing on the E shape, the A shape, and the D shape. Because probably most of you are familiar with the E shapes and the A shapes. Those are kind of common bar chords. So if I were to do, say, G to A, I could play the G shape of E, the E shape of G to the E shape of A. I could do the A shape of G to the A shape of A. And probably most of you or a lot of you know those. Then the one that I see people be the weakest on is the D shape. So the D shape of G is here. Here's a D chord, D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G at the 7th fret. So that's a G chord. And if that's G, that has to be A, because it works the same way. If you memorize where a couple of these shapes are, you can sort of alphabetically find the other chords. So I've got G to A, G to A, G to A. So that D shape is the one that I see people be weaker on than the E shapes and the A shapes. So spend some time with the D shape. When you're in the caged practice studio, a great way to do that is to literally just play D shape to D shape. So if I were doing, say, Can't Always Get What You Want, that's the first backing track in the caged part of the course. I would literally just go, here's the D shape of C, the 12th fret, to the D shape of F. And I'm just going to do that over and over again and really try to memorize it. That's an F chord here at the 5th fret. That's a C chord at the 12th fret. So just like shape to like shape. You don't have to jump around between all of the cage shapes. Just make sure that you're really comfortable with the E shape, A shape, and D shape. And then you can start doing some of what I kind of demonstrate in a lot of those caged videos where I'm doing multiple shapes like in the same area of the neck. All right, got a couple more questions, then I'll get to y'all's questions live. So another great question about the caged stuff is people were asking if it's important to have specific fingerings for them. Like, are the fingerings important? And the fingerings are not important because these caged shapes you can parse apart into 2-note shapes, 3-note shapes, 4-note shapes. So like if I were to take this E shape of A, this bar chord here, so this is the full E shape, but I could play what I usually do is my practical E shape, which is just those 3 notes, but I could play these 3 notes. I could play just these 2 notes. I could play just these 2 notes, just these 2 notes. I could play this note, kind of skipping a string. I could parse these 6 notes apart any way that I want to, and it'll still sound like an A chord. So if I've got take that shape and do whatever I want to with it. So don't get caught up in fingerings too much. Like, it really doesn't matter whatever fingerings work for you. Just know that the caged shape, you can take one cage shape and make a lot of vocabulary out of it. All right, and then I had a question on the number system that I'll answer real quick, and that's what's the easiest way of learning the number system without getting overwhelmed, which I get that can be overwhelming. What I suggest doing is, so in the number system part of the course, the number system practice studio, there are backing tracks in different keys. Like, you can choose the key and you can choose the progression. So let me just share that with you for a second. Okay, so there we go. So, up here in this button, I can change the progression, and down here I can change the key. So the way that I think everybody should get started with this is just pick one key. I would suggest C first, and trying different progressions within the key of C. So the key of C, you can see right here, these are the 6 chords in the key of C. C is the 1 chord, D minor is the 2, E minor is the 3, F and G are the 4 and the 5, A minor is the 6, the relative minor. So a good way to really get the key of C down is to just keep this button here on the key of C and do different progressions. So I could do 1 5 6 4, I could do 1 4 1 5, I could do 1 3 6 5, and that way you're really, it'll help you memorize the numbers of the chords in the key of C. And if you need help, you can hit this little show chords button that gives you the answer. It's hidden by default because I'd rather you kind of think through it and get it. But I'm going to play for a second on, I'm going to put it on my iPad here so I can play along with it. So like I'm going to take the key of C, and here's 1 5 6 4. C is the 1, G is the 5, A minor is the 6, and F is the 4. And then I'd choose another progression, like let's say, here's 1 3 6 5. So C is the 1, E minor is the 3, A minor is the 6, G is the 5. So just stick with one key and try different progressions. Then move to the key of G, because that's a very common key. That's probably, as we call that, the people's key, jokingly, because there's so many songs in the key of G. And then you can move on to the other keys. So with the number system, don't try spreading yourself too thin. I'm coming back to that saying. You want to just pick a key, get decent at that key. You don't have to be perfect at it, but just get to where you feel pretty good about it. Pick another key, do the same thing until you get the 5 caged keys. Those are the keys that guitar players tend to play in the most. So I would definitely focus on those. And then that's really, let's see. Yeah, that is pretty much all I've got as far as questions that people emailed in advance. But does anybody out there have any questions? And I'm going to do my best with this. So yeah.
Hey, Dustin, Steve.
Hey, Steve.
So recently I've been playing around with Songster.
Yeah.
And somehow I pulled up your C major backing track on Songster, and I have absolutely no idea how I did it. Can you talk a little bit about that and how we can, how that can kind of help us in the process? Or...
Yeah. So I switched platforms from Songster to Sound Slice, and so I don't know if
So I haven't signed up. Tell me about Sound Slice.
Sound Slice is great because Sound Slice now, I'm paying for Sound Slice, and you guys get to use all those videos for free. So with Songster, they don't do any sort of deal like that. It's like basically if you wanted to use it, you had to pay for it. With Song Slice, I pay for the subscription, and you guys get to look at the links. And I had an issue with those, so if you that I just fixed a couple of days ago. One of the videos was working, but the rest of them were not. And I finally, after going back and forth with their tech support, I've finally figured out what the problem was. And so now all of those are working. So in the pentatonic, what do I call it? The pentatonic jam room. There's a bunch of these Sound Slice interactive tabs that are really cool. So I play a phrase, and then I give a space, and you can play that phrase back, or you can play your own phrase. But the cool thing about Sound Slice is it's like a tab that follows along while I'm playing.
Right.
And then there's also some of those same Sound Slice files in the Coach's Corner part of the course. I have a thing called the tab library, where I just took some of my videos and put them in through Sound Slice and tabbed them out. And so it gives you something to play along with. But yeah, you don't need to buy the Songster subscription, because now it's all free.
And we don't need to download anything. When we go to your site, it's already integrated with Sound Slice. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's totally correct. You just click on the link and the video plays. You don't have to do anything. It's so much better than the Songster, the way that one worked. Yeah, and there's no ads, there's no commercials, there's none of that crap.
Okay, great, thank you.
Hey, Dustin.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah. Hey, who's this?
Steve.
Hey,
Steve Richmond. Hi.
And totally enjoying the course. Thank you very much.
Awesome.
Two questions for you. First of all, I've had problems clicking on the Songster and getting the videos to work. Some work, some don't.
Yeah,
Maybe that's on my end. Maybe it's
I
something
just
you're aware of.
it's literally I fixed that maybe 2 days ago. So
Oh,
it should be working now. I think you should try it now. I think that it is working for everybody now.
okay. My next question is there any reason you're not showing us standard notation as well as tab?
Honestly, I think standard notation is not needed for most people. I think that I mean, so I can read music. I taught at the college level, but the amount of gigs that I've actually, the amount of paying gigs that I've done where I've gotten paid to play music, where I needed to read music. I mean, I could maybe a dozen, maybe. It's just I think it's not a necessary skill. I think a lot of people get way too bogged down in that. Now, I'm not saying, like, if you're into reading music, I'm not saying that you shouldn't do it. I'm just saying that I don't think it's necessary.
Right. I agree.
So I'm trying to keep things as simple and clear as possible. I may, I think that there's a way that I can fairly easily convert the tabs to standard notation. I'll have to look into that, but yeah, I don't think it's that important of a skill
Okay, thank you.
for most people.
Okay,
Hey, Dustin.
I am learning to read too, and so I enjoy that, but I understand what you're saying, and thank you.
And I think it's great. I'm not trying to discourage that, but I just for the course I want to keep it simple and yeah. So was that
Okay,
Joe?
thank you.
Yeah.
Hey,
Hey,
man.
Dustin, how you doing?
Good, Joe.
Hey, I know you really focus on shapes 1 and 4 and the extended versions of those. Once you get those down, how relevant or important are being able to jump into shapes 2, 3, and 5, or don't you really think much about those?
I do. I mean, I really I like all of the shapes. So I like and use all of the shapes. I still I ground everything on shape 1 and shape 4. That's how I kind of locate everything quite quickly. That's just my instant framework is where are those two shapes, and then I can spread out from there. I think that shapes 2, 3, and 5 are great for being creative, for playing like the lesser typical guitar vocabulary, and especially as you connect them. So like when you can connect through shapes 1 to 5 to 4 to 2, when you can freely go up and down the neck, that's like so helpful for your creativity.
Next level. So
Yeah.
would you say the once you have the ability to jump between extended 1 and extended 4 down, the key at that point will be able to figure out which notes you need to pivot off of to move into shapes 2, 3, and 5?
Yeah, I call it floors and ceilings. So when my daughter was young, she was fascinated by the fact that the floor of her bedroom was the ceiling of our bedroom. Like she was like, we should build a slide that goes down into your bedroom. And that floor to ceiling thing, as I was starting to teach pentatonic, I started to use that metaphor where, like, if I'm taking A minor pentatonic and I play shape 1, the high notes of shape 1 become the low notes of shape 2. I'm just, instead of playing them with my pinky and ring finger, I'm playing them with my index finger. And so when you can see that floor to ceiling connection, and I know, like, logically, everybody looks at that and goes, well, yeah, that makes sense. But I mean, really see it so that I can take, let me just do, hold on. Let me get into backing track here. So if I can take shape 1 and shape 2, and then if I really see that connection on every string, I can can connect on any string. I'm not always using the same well-worn slides. It gives me a lot more creativity.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I got one.
Hey, Scott, you got one? I see you got your hand raised.
I had.
Let's see.
Thanks, Dustin. Hello.
Yeah.
I got a question for you. I just noticed you playing, and you were looking right at us, and you were playing all of your pentatonic shapes without looking at your fretboard. Can you talk to us about playing without looking?
Yeah, I am. Generally speaking, I'm playing a lot without looking or with my eyes closed. I'm just feeling, and so I think that's a really, actually, it's a great point. I never really have talked about that. Playing with your eyes closed or looking somewhere else is a really good way of practicing, because you can start to feel what 2 frets feels like, and feel what 3 frets feels like, and you can even feel the differences between keys. So it's like, I know that the F sharp minor pentatonic shape 1 is going to be a lot more stretched out than D minor pentatonic shape 1. So I spend a lot of time not looking. When I do look when I'm making big shifts. So if I'm going to shift from shape 1 to shape 4, which is a pretty big shift, if I'm not going to climb to get to it, if I'm just going to make a jump, I'm going to look. But otherwise, when I'm playing, I'm trying not to look all that much.
How would you recommend a neophyte at that starting? What's the little first baby step?
The first baby step is just to stay in one shape and try to close your eyes.
Got it.
Because that way you're not shifting. The hardest part about playing with your eyes closed is when you're shifting around. So if you're playing straight across and you're not moving at all from, say, the 5th fret, it's easier to do with your eyes closed.
That's great. That's very exciting. Thank you.
Cool. How about? Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. When playing like the number system, I appreciate you doing this too. I really love the numbers. Fantastic.
My pleasure. Awesome.
But doing the number system, I know you have the 1, 4, 5 and the 2, 3, 6. When do you throw the 7 chords in? Or like an A7 or E7, depending on what scale you're in. Do you substitute that over the major chords or the minor chords, or just throw them in?
So that is a bit of a tricky question. Okay, so I'm going to mute you out real quick because you feedback there. Hold on. Okay, so in a key, if you're truly in key with no exceptions at all, the 5th chord is the one that is the dominant 7th chord. So if I'm in the key of A, for instance, A is the 1 chord, D is the 4 chord, E is the 5 chord. Well, that E chord you can play as E7. Okay, so that's being truly in key. All right. But my second answer is, in blues music, they play, blues is basically generally around the 1, 4, and 5 chords, like most blues songs are 1, 4, 5, but they play them all as dominant 7th chords. So that still sounds really good, but it is not truly in key. So it's kind of bending a lot of the music theory rules. So in general, if you're really sticking to the rules and being in key, the 5 chord is the one that's the dominant 7th chord. However, probably a lot of us here love the blues. I love the blues. In the blues, they bend the rules and they make all of the major chords be dominant 7th chords. But blues, even though people think it's a simple music, it's actually kind of complex, because those 3 chords, if you play A7, D7, and E7, even though they sound great together, it's really 3 different keys that you're playing. So blues is not as simple as a lot of people think that it is. So hopefully that answered that question. All right. How about Adam? I think you were next.
Yes. Hey, Dustin. Thanks.
Hey.
I got to figure out how to unmute this thing. Hey, real quick, cage system. I noticed in the examples that you have up, song examples and the corresponding charts, there is no song example on your course that has C minor or G minor involved. And so I just wondered, is there a simple explanation for that, or
Yeah, they're just the the key of the chord C minor is, it's not an so the 5 keys that guitar players tend to play in are caged: the key of C, key of A, key of G, key of E, key of D, and all of their relative minors. So the key of A minor, the key of E minor, the key of F sharp minor, the key of B minor, the key of C sharp minor. Those 5 or 10 keys, depending on how you look at it, are 90% of guitar-oriented music. So like a C minor chord is not in any of those keys. A C minor chord is in the key of E flat. That's the relative minor of the key of E flat major. Guitar players tend to not play in the key of E flat major very much. We'd probably prefer to play in the key of D or the key of E. Now, having said that, if you're in a band that's like keyboard oriented, now if you're playing in Elton John's band or Billy Joel's band or something like that, then you're probably going to be playing in those keys, because E flat's not a hard key on piano. So you need to learn those keys. But that's why in the caged section of the pentatonic, I have nothing that's in any of those keys, because they're just not as common of guitar keys.
I figured there was a very simple explanation, and that definitely that answers it. I also wouldn't mind just sharing with you, because maybe some other folks could get some use out of this. You and I had discussed once if there was a way to access each individual chord or note, like in your caged system. So say, like for me, I like to, when I'm playing for fun, I don't really tend to learn other folks' songs. I just jam freely and make my. What I've done is I've literally printed out each of your caged PDF files, and then I've cut them into individual strips, so I can mix and match them when I'm coming up with a chord progression, and then that gives me like a little cheat sheet to kind of easily access the cage shapes as a reference point. And I've had a whole bunch of fun doing that. So,
that's
bring that up.
Yeah, that's a cool idea. I might have to see if I can write an app that does that, where you can put in 2 to 4 chords, and it will give you the cage diagrams for that. I'll think about that. I'll put that on my list, Adam.
Right on, man. Yeah, cool. Thank you.
All right. I'm not sure who was. How about Colin? I don't know who was next. So, hey, Colin.
Hey, buddy.
How you doing?
Good. This has been awesome. You're doing a great job, by the way. I know this is always a little daunting.
Thanks.
I got a slide for Christmas.
Cool.
Not the slide that you were talking about, like your daughter. I got a slide.
Yeah.
I know this is outside of the course, but any thoughts about how to start to learn a little bit about how to use a slide or to incorporate it into playing?
Yeah. So, all right. So I'm no Derek Trucks. That slide is not my main forte, but slide guitar is based around the A shape. Okay, because a slide is straight, and the A shape goes straight across as well. So when you're playing a slide, you're definitely going to do a lot of licks around an A shape. What I suggested first, let's see if I have my slide handy. I do not have a slide handy. What I would suggest first, I'm just going to pretend like I've got a slide on my finger, is playing blues in G to get used to this. So there's my G shape of G. There's my open G chord. I'm just going to play the D, G, and B strings open, and that also would get repeated here. So here at the 12th fret, there's like the A shape of G. Here's the A shape of C. Here's the A shape of D. So if I had my slide on, I'd play something like this to get started. But you get the idea. I would start with just getting the chords and trying to get that in tune, and then around each one of those A shapes, there's all these little licks that people play. But first, it's getting the shapes. Like, you got to be a master of the A shape to play slide. That is like the shape for that.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm gonna tune up real quick while who's somebody else shout out a question. How about you?
Hey, Dustin, this is Vic.
Hey, Vic.
How you doing, pal?
Good. How you doing?
Good. Listen, number one, thank you for the quick response to my email several days ago with respect to phrasing. Your explanation was articulate and well received, and I thank you very much for that.
Well, thanks. I'm usually not that quick with email, so I'm glad glad you got a quick one. My inbox has been crazy.
Personality. At the risk of asking probably a stupid question, can I practice too much?
Yeah. I mean,
explain that to me.
Two things. Like one, just on a physical level, like you got to be careful. If you start to feel pain, then you got to take a break.
Sure.
So there's just that level of just don't. If you feel like, hey, this is not comfortable, I'm hurting more than I usually am, like that's not good.
Well, I haven't gotten to that point yet.
Good. So, but the other thing is, like, mentally, you need to take breaks. I see a lot of people who are like obsessive practicers, and I could get into that zone myself. And you start to kind of lose focus and concentration, even though it might not be apparent to you after about 15 or 20 minutes of just going hard at it. So, like, I think a good thing to do is set a timer, or at least, just kind of be aware that every 20 minutes or so, take a break, get up, make yourself a glass of water, walk outside for just a minute. It doesn't have to be a long break, but just giving your mind a rest, because otherwise you could be practicing and not making as much progress. Because
that's the problem. And I've done some reading on this, and in case anybody else is wondering about this, 10 to 15 minutes is about the time span that most experts recommend.
Yeah.
And then take a break, because you're concentrating so much on what you're doing. So what I've done is I've developed a system where I would sit down for 10 to 15 minutes, and you're right, I have a timer right up here on my desk. When that timer goes off, I just lose everything. I put my guitar back, I take a break, let the dogs out, get a cup of coffee, and then I'll come back a half hour later, and then I'll do another 15 or 20 minutes. And before you know it, and I'm retired, so I don't need to work or anything. This is what I'm doing this year. So
Sweet.
Before you know it, dude, I'm 3 hours into practice during the course of almost every day.
Yeah.
So barring any interruptions, I think that's probably a pretty good way to go. I just want to make sure that, if there's such thing as diminishing returns after about 3 or 4 hours of practice.
I mean, I think that's different for everybody. Just check in with your brain. If you feel like, okay,
Sure.
I am getting a little bit mushy in the brain, then wait for tomorrow.
All right. Well, thank you, brother. I appreciate everything you do, and looking forward to a reproductive 2026.
Awesome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Who's next? I can't tell. I'm sorry. I wish I had a better system. On my end, I just see a bunch of little Zoom windows. I got some hands raised. I have no idea who was first. So if somebody wants to,
I'll jump in if that's okay.
Sure.
Or somebody else. This is John here.
Hey, John.
Hi, Dustin. I appreciate the course. Really enjoying it a lot. I can't figure out how to raise my hand with the emoji. So
that's okay.
Anyway, quick question on triads.
Yeah.
And I wondered at some point if you're going to incorporate triads in some way with the pentatonic, so we can play the triad in addition to playing the pentatonic notes as we're, kind of running through that and some of the songs.
Totally. So I haven't added this to the course yet. I'm trying, my challenge sometimes with the course is how much information to put in there. I want it to be helpful for everybody, but I also don't want it to be this like freaking overwhelming thing with a million different parts to it. I do have a YouTube video specifically on that, on the intersection between the caged shapes and the 5 shapes of the pentatonic. If you email me after this, I'll send you the link to that specific video, because I don't remember what the title of it was, but it kind of goes through that. But just to give you an idea, if I take shape 1 of the C major, A minor pentatonic here at the 5th fret, that is the G shape, or it's kind of like the A shape, but there's the practical G shape. That's the G shape of the C major pentatonic. That's the E minor shape of the A minor pentatonic. So like one simple way that it's simple, it's not easy. One simple way of practicing this is you can play these chords. Like let's say I'm doing C major to A minor. I set up that chord progression and I'll just play the C major chord. And I'll kind of play the chord, play the pentatonic, so that I really see the connection. I really see that those are the strong notes over the C chord, or here's the full G shape. Those are the strong notes over the C chord. These are the strong notes over the A minor chord. And then for shape 4, it's the C/D shape and the A minor shape. So I would do the same kind of thing. So that can kind of get you started, but I do have some videos on that, and I am planning on figuring out a way to add that to the course without expanding things too much.
Yeah, because you've already using triads with your C shape and your G minor shape and your D shape. You've got already some triads built in there now, so that would be great. I'd love to see that, but I'll shoot you a separate email after we're done.
Great. And like the next step with that is, when you have shape 1 of the pentatonic, that's the C major pentatonic. I've got the C chord that's right here. That's the 1 chord. I've got the 2 chord, D minor, it's right there. I've got the E minor chord, the 3 chord, it's right there. I've got the F chord, the 4 chord. I've got G, the 5 chord, or G, the 5 chord, and the A minor chord. All of the chords that are in key are going to overlap with the pentatonic scale, and they're always going to overlap in the same way. So if I'm playing the pentatonic scale and it goes to the 4 chord, I know the 4 chord is going to be that shape with that pentatonic, and that's true no matter the key.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, how about Dropkin? Hey.
Yeah, Rob.
Hey, Rob.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Dustin, I want to give you, which I'm sure is a universal, enormous thank you.
Oh, man, appreciate that.
The generosity of teaching everybody all these things. I mean, it's just...
Oh, man, I appreciate that, but I love it. Like, this is what I love to do. I love playing music, but I love teaching. I've been doing it for a long time, and I get a kick out of, seeing people make breakthroughs and seeing people have fun and progressing. So I do appreciate it, though, man.
And I want to just a quick advertisement for your for the Christmas music, the Silent Night.
Yeah.
If anybody missed that video and just learning the cage shapes with Silent Night.
I remember your email.
It was a breakthrough.
Yes.
It really, really came together, the brilliance of this moving up and down the neck for the same chord in different shapes. It really came together. So I can't thank you enough.
Awesome. Robert, I'm working on I have to think of another simple song that's not a Christmas song that will easily demonstrate that. I don't know.
Did it.
Oh, great.
Thank you.
Cool. Was that it? You have any questions? Or
yeah, no, I just wanted to share that with everybody. That if anybody is kind of struggling with this whole concept of caged and moving up and down, and that for me was an enormous breakthrough. And the other thing I've been finding is using like Beatles songs and things like that.
Yeah.
Using your cage system instead of bar chords is going to be my salvation.
Oh, that's great. I was thinking it's a little bit too complicated to demonstrate as clearly as Silent Night was, but I sometimes do that's a good example of caged shapes and how the melody note.
Where else it's been useful, and I think it was All My Lovin'. There's an F sharp minor to a C sharp minor, which is, maybe that's the wrong song, but they do a lot with those chords, and that is a beautiful transition. They're close, they're in the same neighborhood, just like all the things you've been preaching of figure out your caged shapes in a neighborhood and try to use those for a given progression.
Awesome.
So anyway, again, thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure. How about Matt? Hey, Matt, you have your hand? Hey, there you go.
Oh, yes. I just wanted to say something towards the notation.
Yeah.
Also, I agree with you that, I can read a bit of sheet music, but I just think for the usual purpose of playing guitar, it's not that useful, particularly when you have in chords and you see all this, leave me alone with it kind of after a while. So it's actually easier to just have the chords written above. Where I think it comes in really useful is for rhythm notation.
That is
a combination where that I've recently seen that you can have tab, but it actually gives you the time value of the notes.
Yes.
And particularly because I also I'm going back to learning bass a bit now, and that's really important because that is all about rhythm and how long these notes. So if you just have the tab, where to put your finger, it takes forever to actually figure out the actual time value of the note. So if that is incorporated in the tab, then that makes it a lot easier.
Yes, and I don't remember if it's incorporated in the tabs that I've got from Sound Slice. I can't remember. I know that when I'm inputting the tabs, I have to be aware of the note values because it does it bar by bar. So when I'm tabbing it out, I believe that the tabs have rhythmic notation. There may be some mistakes in the rhythmic notation because I wasn't being so precious about that. I really wanted to get the tabs out there, and it's like crazy time consuming because I'm tabbing out like things that I improvised. So it's not like something that I have composed and set and played.
It wasn't meant as a kind of. I just thought I put my top ends in there with regards to the notation because I think that is the one that I personally feel is really makes a difference if you can read, how long you hold a note. That helps a lot. Whereas if I just know the pitch, I know that usually just from the tab. It's easier for me to read still.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. Thanks, Matt. How about Scott?
Dustin, I have to say, I have guitar envy right now, just looking at your. Is that a Collings?
It is.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
My question is, I was working on your double stops video.
Yeah.
To make your solo sound bigger. And I was trying to transpose it to different keys. And my question is kind of a theory question. How do you determine which is the root note if you're doing sliding thirds and sixths?
Yeah.
How do you determine the space between them so that if you're changing keys from what's written in the tab, you can okay, so if my index finger is playing a D, how do I figure out where that third and sixth is from there? Do you understand?
I do. It's kind of a complicated question. I'm gonna hit it in two different ways. But to simplify it, I think that you should look at all of those thirds and sixths and see which caged shape they come from. So in other words, if the chord was G and I did something like, I did those two sixths. That's a real common kind of shape, kind of lick and progression. This comes from the E shape. This comes from the D shape. So if I know that this lick comes from the E shape, then if the next chord was C, there's my E shape of C. Here's my E shape of D. So I think that's one big part of it. It's just like anytime you're playing thirds or sixths, they will be a part of some sort of caged shape. If I'm playing thirds, I'm either playing that or I'm playing this. I'm going to be playing those. But the other thing that's tricky about sixths, that's so freaking hard for me to say, sixths and thirds, is because there's only two notes. Those notes can be multiple chords. So in other words, this sixth that I played here is in a G chord. But this is also in an E minor chord. This sixth that I played there, that's in the D shape of G. So that's but it's also in a B minor chord. Okay. So every sixth and thirds are the exact same way. Every sixth and every third can be multiple chords. So yeah, it's not. I think it's easier.
Very helpful.
Yeah, it's easier just to see it in terms of a caged shape than to try and figure out what's the root note, what's the third, because it depends on how you're using that sixth. Is this the third and the root of a G chord, or is this the fifth and the third of an E minor chord?
Usually I'm just trying to compose the melody line to play over the top of the chords, but I want the harmonized notes because I just love the sound of those sliding thirds and sixths.
Yeah.
So I was just that's it. I'm just trying to build the melody lines with harmonic notes over top.
I really think caged is the answer for you, because the melody line is almost always going to be a part of the caged shape. This goes back to what Rob was saying about my Silent Night video that I did. Like the melody of Silent Night or of any song is following chord tones. That's the A chord of Silent Night, the first chord. I'm doing it in the key of A, but and all of those notes are in, all the main notes are in some sort of caged shape.
Okay. Thank you. That's extremely helpful.
Awesome. How about
Dustin,
Steve?
Dustin, is there any information on double stops in the course?
Yeah. So there's in the pentatonic bonus section, there's a video on double stops, and so there's two ways of, or
thank you.
There's two ways of thinking about double stops. There's the pentatonic way, which is basically where are double stops located within these pentatonic shapes, and that's like the less theoretical way. It's great because you learn where those double stops are within the pentatonic. And they're located in the exact same place no matter what key you're in. So you don't have to use a whole lot of processing power for that. The other way of looking at double stops is through the lens of caged. And I don't have anything specifically yet in the course about this, but any caged shape, you can take two notes of that shape and that's a double stop. But there you're having to move the double stop with the chord progression. So if the song's going from, well, like let's say Sitting on the Dock of the Bay, it's a G chord to B to C to A. So you've got all these little double stops that are part of caged shapes. So it's like I can't state enough how important I think caged is. It's just like it is the gateway to playing changes, whether it's double stops or melodies or anything. But the first step to that is just being able to go. Is just strumming the caged shapes, which is why when you start getting into caged, doing those simple 2-chord backing tracks and getting really good at just that, just simply playing the chords, then you'll get tighter and tighter with it. All right, how about Steve Couch? I think you're next.
Yes, thank you, Dustin.
You're welcome, man.
Appreciate all you do. Hey, I'm in North Carolina. I don't know how many other people. You're in North Carolina, right?
I am. I'm in Boone. Where are you at?
I'm in Durham, Raleigh-Durham area.
Very nice.
Yeah, so come on down for a lesson.
I will. My buddy Steve lives there. I think he was on the call earlier.
That's great. Hey, so I feel like I know the 5 positions pretty well.
Okay.
I had played acoustic for 15 years, then picked up electric about 4 years ago. But I'm wondering about phrasing and improvisation. Right, the backing track comes on, and I just feel like I'm not doing anything. So, a beginner lesson, like where do you recommend to start?
So, a few things. All right. So, if you, I would say, shape 1 and shape 4, like really honing those in, get those, to where you feel really good about shape 1 and shape 4. Then you want to. There's the section of the course that I highlighted earlier in the pentatonic practice studio where there's all those different techniques. That's going to really help you sound musical. So bends, slides, hammer-ons, and pull-offs. And there's 2 different places in the course where I talk about sequences of notes. So groups of 3, 4, 5, 6. There's an exercise section in the coach's corner of the course that has that, and it's also in that techniques video. But getting those 3, 4, 5 note groupings together is just like, it's just money. Like that stuff it's so useful. Just I'm just doing 3 note groups, 4 note groups, 5 note groups. Getting really good at that is super helpful. And then the other thing that I meant to mention this earlier, like I think rhythm is more important than anything else. So if you play, like I could stick any notes in the pentatonic scale in if I have a good rhythm in mind. So if I'm ba 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 ba, so my rhythm ba 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 ba. All of those phrases, I was just popping notes from the pentatonic in, but I played the exact same rhythm every single time. Ba 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 ba. So
yeah,
I think
that I saw this in one of your videos a couple of days ago. The 1E and a 2E and a 3 and you're actually saying that in your mind.
No,
and like the 4 beats per measure.
I'm not. I'm so glad that you asked this because a lot of people have that. I must have misstated the way I think.
No, I misinterpreted. Yeah.
So like when I'm listening to a song, I think being able to count a song is really important. So like this song, being able to just sit around with tunes and just going 1, 2, 3, 4. That's quarter notes. 2, 3, eighth notes would be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 16th notes would be 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a... Okay, so like being able to do that is super helpful. It's a killer way of practicing when you're not playing the guitar. You'd be driving around listening to music or taking a walk with the earbuds and just listen to songs that you like and just try and tap into that for 30 seconds. Let me see if I can count eighth notes, count 16th notes to the song. But then when I'm playing, I do not put those words in my head. At that point, I'm still thinking in 16th notes, but I am not using the numbers, the E's, the U's, all that kind of complicated stuff, because I really want to think as simply as I can. So in my mind, it's just and then I can tap into that. The only time I would need to know if something's on the E of 3 is if I'm trying to figure out something and I'm having trouble with that rhythm. If that rhythm feels unnatural, I might have to count it out to get it right. But 99% of the time, I am not thinking in those kinds of terms. It's only when I'm reading music or trying to figure out something that's complicated or trying to figure out a rhythm that I can't grasp yet.
No, that's great. You're feeling that rhythm. You're feeling it in your mind. Yes.
Right. And I may start by counting it. I might, when I'm listening to a song, I might at first 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and but then I want to lose the verbiage and just switch from that to and that way I'm kind of like scat singing in my brain all the time. Ba ba da 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 ba 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 ba. And you can kind of feel the rhythm,
Yeah, I think the problem for me is coming up with that rhythm that you just did nicely. In your brain, you've got to come up like, I hear this and then I'm going to play it. But you simplified it there, so thank you.
Yeah, just when you're listening to music, just try and do literally just that. I'm just making shit up, it's just like if you get a good rhythm, I swear that's like 90% of the battle right there.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. Thank you.
And the other thing, this isn't related to your question, but the other thing that that a lot of people struggle with is like finding the right note at the right time. People talk a lot about playing the changes and saying they're playing the notes, but they don't quite sound right. If you hold a note, you need that note to match the chord of the moment. You can hold a note that's in the scale, that's a correct note in the scale, but it still sounds tense because maybe the chord that's happening at that moment is a chord where that note is tense. But if you don't hold the note, it literally doesn't matter. So I say this because I see a lot of people who will always hold the last note of their phrase. But if the last note of your phrase is short, that note that I ended on right there, that is a tense sounding note. Oops. Where is it? That's a tense sounding note over that A minor chord, but I didn't hold it. If I were to go, that note needs to go somewhere if I hold it. So if you're unsure if a note is going to sound great to end your phrase on, just hit that note and then immediately that's the period at the end of your sentence. You don't have to hold the note.
Awesome. Thank you.
Cool. You're welcome.
Great point, Dustin. Hey, John Clinton here. I don't know how to raise my hand either. Can you hear me?
That's okay. Yeah. John, is that what you said?
Yeah, John Clinton. Yeah. Hey, I appreciate the email responses on a few of our emails, so I'm glad to be here. Really am glad to be here.
Oh, man, I'm glad you're here.
Hey, you're ripping the Band-Aid off on a lot of things that I think many of us think about, to be quite honest, in our musical journey here. But your ideas on phrasing are spot on with where I'm at. I have a tendency to think that I have to overcook a most simple little phrase for it to sound good. And so that whole breathing space and keeping it simple and trying to find tone while we're trying to find technique is something that I hope that you can expound upon too. So, if you don't have tone, it sounds like crap, right? So you may be figuring having your technique there with you, but I think you just can't forget about part of the journey is finding your tone.
Absolutely. And I think of tone as having two components. There's the component that's you, and then there's the component that's the gear, and they're both important. The part that's you is how you attack the guitar, your what kind of guitar you're playing. I guess that's more of a gear thing, but how you attack the guitar, which is a direct influence on. Which is directly related to like what you listen to. So you are going to sound like your favorite guitar players. It's just
No, I don't. I don't sound like any favorite guitar players. I mean, all of my guitars sound like crap. So I mean, I'm just saying it's important, to know.
I guess what I mean is your target, the target tone that you hear in your mind is going to be the guitar players who you like their sound. So it's like if you like the way. Like I love the way Mark Knopfler sounds. So it's like he's kind of unconsciously influencing my tone all the time. Sure. It's like, so there's that part of it, and then there's the gear part of it. And I plan on doing a video that's like in the near future. It's just kind of a complicated video, so I've been putting it off a little bit. But I'm going to do a gear video, kind of giving some I don't want to say basic, but some like general advice on gears.
Yeah, it's just more of my hands since I don't have the opportunity to play with others.
Yeah.
To see them in action and see their hands, how they do this. I think that's where, it's a downfall to playing by yourself. So, but I appreciate everything you've done on this program. It's awesome.
Awesome. Thanks, John. Mike, did you have a question?
Yeah, thanks. Mostly just wondered I have your e-bundle books and wondering how you feel like how the fretboard fluency bundle relates to the stuff in the essential course, if that's
it's like the next step. So my kind of my plan going forward, this is my long-term plan, it's not going to be like in the next couple of months or anything, but is to have another course that is like the next level skills. And when I say that next level skills, like I don't mean that's better and not everybody needs it, but the course is focused on like the stuff that I use 90% of the time, and then the fretboard fluency stuff, which is all 5 shapes of the pentatonic scale. That's great for your creativity. The 5 shapes of the major scale, which is really, really useful and helpful for melodic playing, and the modes. That's mainly what the fretboard fluency. That's what the fretboard fluency ebook package was all about. The course may differ from that a little bit. I'm still figuring that out. But but that stuff lays on top of the essential skills. So like when I'm playing modes, I'm still thinking pentatonic scale plus some extra notes. And when I'm playing modes, I need to know the number system to be able to identify the chord progression, to know what mode to play. So it's like the essential skills are just the foundation, and then the fretboard fluency stuff is just like the kind of the next stuff that you could work on.
Thanks, and you've built an incredible foundation. This is like totally opened up my ear. This has been so good. So,
awesome. I appreciate that, Mike. Cool. Anybody else have any questions?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, hey, just wondering, I got just a couple quick questions. One is on YouTube. It seems like there's a lot of videos on YouTube that aren't in the course, or am I just not finding them in the course?
There are a lot of videos on YouTube that are not in the course. You're right. I am thinking about putting more of those in the course. I don't know. Do you guys think that would be helpful overall?
I'm just wondering if I'm missing information or if there's any.
No, there's so again, like the tightrope that I walk sometimes is I don't want to make the course too bloated and too complicated. So I do want to put there are a lot of, most of my YouTube videos are on these 3 essential skills. I do have some videos on the modes. I've got some videos on the blues that are kind of outside the scope of the course. So I probably won't add those to the course.
Okay, the blues one is what I was kind of interested in. So you do have blues stuff I have a little bit of blues stuff. I have, maybe 4 or 5 different videos. If you send me an email after we hang up, I can send the link straight to you. Okay. But that sounds good.
Yeah, but blues still is a topic that I think I'm going to save that for the fretboard fluency course, because it's complicated. Everybody thinks it's easy. but it's not.
Yeah, you were saying that.
Yeah,
that was interesting.
I mean, it can be kind of simple. You can play it simple, but it's not. There's a lot to it because you're really having to react to each chord. You kind of in blues, you almost have to play the changes, or at least be aware of the changes to be a good blues player. And it's more complicated. So I didn't want to put it there because I think it's a next level thing.
Is there any quick thing you could say about if you end up with, say, an odd chord outside the diatonic chord scale, you just basically follow that chord like the triad, just hit triad notes if it's getting into a chord outside?
Total. That's a killer question. And yes. All right. So if I know the number system, I should be able to identify if there's a chord in the song that's not in key. Now, if there's a chord in the song that's not in key, that chord probably sounds pretty interesting and cool. Like it's going to be unexpected. So
yeah, like in a bridge or something like that.
Yeah. And if you can highlight that chord, it's going to sound great. So a lot of times when they're those, the fancy word for it is non-diatonic chords, a lot of times when those non-diatonic or out of key chords come up, I will literally just play the notes of the chord and it sounds killer. Like if it's a C minor chord, I'll just play the notes of the C minor chord and it will sound great. So yeah, that's the first approach. Every chord has a scale that would go with it. So that, like, way next level theory is for any non-diatonic chord, there is a scale that goes with it. It might be a mode, it might be harmonic minor, it might be melodic minor. It gets complicated, but really you can just look for the chord tones of that chord. That's generally what I suggest.
Okay, well, thanks.
You're welcome.
Cool.
All right, anybody else got anything? I got to wrap it up in a few minutes. I got to go pick my daughter up from school, but we got about 5 minutes before I need to go if anybody else has anything.
Hey Dustin, will this recording be available anywhere?
Yeah, so I'm recording it. All things, if everything's going like it should be, I'm recording it and I will upload it. I think the easiest way is I'm going to upload it to not my regular YouTube channel, but I have another YouTube channel that, when I post videos in my newsletters and stuff that's not on my channel, I've got this second YouTube channel. It's kind of like not a public channel. So I'll put it on there and I'll send you guys out the link to it. It'll probably take me a couple days to do it, but yeah, this will be available.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm gonna be doing something like this. I'm starting this program called Office Hours. I'm hoping to start it in February, which will be basically just this. Like once a week, we'll do an hour meeting, and anybody can ask any questions. So I'll be sending some stuff out about that as it gets closer. I'm still trying to figure out details.
You got the makings of a great community here. So
you're telling me, man. I love it. It's just killer. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, Dan?
One question.
Yeah.
For the pentatonic backing tracks, do you have the chords listed anywhere?
I don't. I don't, but I'm going to. I've had enough people reach out and ask that. And I'm happy to provide that. I didn't purposely because I wanted people to, when they're in that pentatonic practice studio, I don't want them to be necessarily chasing the changes. I want them to be just playing the pentatonic scale and trying to use your ear and your intuition to kind of match the chords. So I'm gonna put it. I'm gonna do that because enough people have asked. It's like, okay, I need to do that. People want it, but I want to put it somewhere else so that people don't get to that right away. Because I don't want, it's a lot to try to keep up with the changes. So when you're first getting used to the pentatonic scale and getting good at it, I would rather just go by ear and intuition and try and figure out what note you think is going to sound good at that particular moment without being aware of what the chord is in that moment and trying to map out cage shapes over it, that's kind of hard to do. So I don't want people to start there.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
But you know what the key is.
Oh yeah, the key.
Yeah, I mean, so it's not hard. I mean,
right. And for the most part, and now this is not true of all of those, for the most part, I stay within the number system. So there's not many non-diatonic chords, but there are a few that happen pretty quickly. There's a couple of things that are not neatly within the number system. So you could try and figure it out by ear, and that would be an incredible learning opportunity, is just, look at the name of the backing track. If it's a C major backing track, get those 6 chords of C major. You only have 6 to choose from, and just try and pound it out. It's like great for your ear. Scott, do you have another question?
Yeah, just I wanted to say that listing of the chord names in the caged practice system, though, would be helpful, so that we don't have to open the PDF all the time, and we could just see, okay, this I'm going to work with these 2 chords, and turn on the backing track and go. Just a thought.
I remember, I think you emailed me about that.
Yeah.
I have to figure out how I would do that.
Sure, written someplace.
Yeah.
You also sent me those other backing tracks that you did that had them listed on the splash image.
Yes.
Those were great.
Okay.
But that may not be something you want to do. It's just feedback.
Well, I mean, I guess I could easily. Is that what you were talking about? Is like
exactly.
Okay.
Just when I am in the caged practice system, when I want to go through all of the different things, it's really nice to know what the chords are really fast that I'm going to be targeting, not targeting, but using the triad shapes in the caged practice area, without having to open a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. All right, let me think about that. I could easily just put a link to exactly what I sent you.
Yeah. Those are great. That's what I'm using now.
Yeah, I could do that. Again, I'm walking that line of like too much. I don't want people to get in there and go, oh man, there's just so much stuff. What do I do? What do I do?
It's just one guy's feedback. That's all. I've solved the problem. You were wonderful. So thank you.
All right, cool. Appreciate it. And Keith, you got your hand up?
Yeah, I'm just starting, and I've noticed that different teachers use different numbers for the positions in the pentatonic scale. What's the deal on that?
So probably what you're talking about is some people number the minor pentatonic and the major pentatonic differently. So there are 5 shapes of the pentatonic scale in total, whether it's major pentatonic and minor pentatonic, and you have this relative major and relative minor concept. So the key of C major and the key of A minor are the same pentatonic scale shapes.
Right.
Now, but some people would label this one shape 1 of the A minor pentatonic because my root note A is here with my index finger. Mm-hmm. And that's what almost everybody does that. But there are some people who, when they do C major, they label this shape what I think of as shape number 2. They label that shape number 1 of the major pentatonic. And I freaking hate that because it's like you've got 2 different names for the same shape. And to me, I think it's just way easier that this is just shape 1 because it's the shape that I use the most, even though this is, according to some people, shape 1 of the C major pentatonic. Mostly if I'm playing in C, I'm playing that's my main shape. So I just call the shapes the same whether they're major pentatonic or minor pentatonic. Because literally in my mind, if a song's in the key of C or if a song's in the key of A minor, I'm playing the exact same stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks. It gets confusing, but I'm sticking with your method.
It is. I think the simpler you can frame concepts, the better. Like that's what I go for, is simplicity, because that's what works for me. Is I want to have the foundation be simple as possible, and then I can stack on top of that once I get that. But I like to think, practical and simple, and then go from there.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. I really enjoyed this call, by the way. It's great.
Awesome, Keith. Thanks. Cool. Well, I hate to do it. If anybody has any other questions, feel free to shoot me an email. And I can't even begin to say thanks enough. I appreciate all you guys being here and being part of the course. And reach out. I'm here, and I will see y'all soon.
Thank you. Thank you, Dustin.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Totally appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye.